Today I just want to share with you a wonderful theme that is letting things go. Yeah, so let's talk about letting things go. Let's talk about forgiving. Let's talk about forgetting. Uh, if I talk about letting things go, what do I mean? I mean, I mean, have you ever been offended? Has someone ever done something wrong to you? What was your reaction towards that? What did you do to that person? What did you say to that person? So, I'll give you an example. One of my kids was hit by a stone by another kid. They were playing, so this boy threw a stone, and then accidentally it hit a girl. Okay, the stone hit on one of the girl's eyes, then the eye just grew bigger, and then okay, the girl was in a lot of pain. We had to take her in the hospital. By then, I forgot about the boy who threw the stone to the girl. Then I had to focus on the girl, how to solve problems. Uh, Sometimes we forget solving problems, then we focus on blaming on what caused the problem. We live with people that we live in a life where we get offended, we get wronged by a lot of people. But what is your response to that? Okay, you can't just avoid getting offended. Then it is something that is inevitable. So eventually the girl healed, and right now she's fine. The only thing I did to the boy who did that to the girl was talking to him. Then I'm like, never to use the stones. I mean, playing with the stones. I told that to all the kids, and right now they don't throw the stone. I never punished the boy. No, it doesn't mean that if kids wrong or do something wrong, we should not punish them. We should punish them. But okay, it is something that we should not focus on, because punishing or blaming someone doesn't solve the problem. We tend to keep the grudge, we tend to keep the pain inside ourselves, on our hearts, but we are just hurting ourselves instead. Let us learn to forget things. I mean, let us learn to let things go. We should learn letting things go. Enough good use to keep the grudge, to keep the pain in you, then you pass through a lot of pain remembering. Because trust me, whenever you keep the pain, the grudge, the toxic, okay, it is just eating you instead. I'll give you an example from the Bible. If you all remember the story of Joseph, Joseph was loved by his father, then hated by his brothers. Okay, it is a long story. I may not go deep into it, but Joseph was this boy who was living in a family where brothers don't like him. Okay, they even reached to the point of wanting to kill him. So these boys, his brothers wanted to kill him, but with God's mercy, they never killed him. So they sold him as a slave. So imagine they were his brothers, his little brothers. Then they sold him as a slave. Then Joseph went, then worked as a slave. Then after being, he was in prison. Then after being, we know the story. If you don't know the story, I'll get a day then pass through the full story of Joseph. So, but Joseph ended up being one of the most loved person by the king. Then the king made him a minister. Joseph became rich, and and then we all remember then the drought came in, but Joseph had advised the king, no, we should save some food, and then so one day the brothers to Joseph was starving because it was drought all over. Then one day brothers to Joseph and his father, okay, they were starving. Then they came, okay, it was that area where Joseph was living that had food and some water. Since they saved it, Joseph prophesied to the king that the drought is going to come, let us keep food and some water. So Joseph came looking for food, just like other people from other areas where there were no food. So Joseph was the minister, was in charge of distributing or giving or selling food to other people. So when he saw his brothers, he noticed them, but they never noticed him. Then he gave them free food, and then plus it was free food. Then they went back without noticing that the minister that has given us food is our brother. They came back, then they knew him, but Joseph treated them like brothers, like relatives, forgetting that they wanted to kill him. Then they sold him as a slave. So let us forget. I know we get people that offend us, but we should have that peace in us of letting. I know it is hard to let things go, but it is more harder to keep pain on your heart, to handle that pain on your heart. But you just have to let that pain go, and then you'll be normal. Because I know we pass through a lot. I know we all have problems to handle. I know we people annoy us, but we should always forgive them in order to have peace, and in order to. Let's talk about that inner peace we have to get as the followers of Jesus. After forgiving, after letting things go, after forgetting that I was disappointed, let me move on. I was offended, I should move on. I'll give you another example. Jesus Christ was crucified, he was beaten, he was mistreated. Then at the end, he said to the Lord, forgive them, they did not know what they were doing. That word forgive them made him have peace, made him forget whatever happened, made him special. We should be special as followers of Jesus, and we get all the examples from Jesus' life, and it's the life we all admire to live. You all remember, in a certain verse, Peter asked Jesus how many times we should forgive, because the Jewish law tells us to forgive 3 times. And he was like, oh, maybe you should forgive 7 times. Jesus told him that you should forgive 70 times, 7 times. Then after those times, you should give up on forgiving. But Jesus was not all about how many times a person should forgive the other, but it was all about forgiving should be endless, because you can't count that I've forgiven 70 times, 7 times. You can't count that. So if Jesus encouraged us to forgive, he knew that it's the way we can have the peace in ourselves, in our hearts. So forgiving, letting things go. I know, just like I told you, that it is hard to forgive or to let things go, or to let people who hurt you go, to forgive